All right. So today I've got another assignment for you to kick off in class. Before I get into that, do you have any questions about anything you want to ask? All right. So this is, excuse me, this goes back to our first week when you had to do that set of 16 hexes using Blockly. Same thing, but now I've written a library so that you actually get to do the same thing in C++. Well, similar thing. Rather than 16 hexes, you have to draw this sheet, which is, I want to say, well, there it is, 13 across by basically 13 columns of 11 hexes each. So you want to get a copy of this tarball. If you're on Jaguar, you can go ahead and just run that command. Note that there's a, I even have that. There's a space and a period at the end of that command. Otherwise, somehow get it to wherever you have Linux going. Then you can run that command to get a copy, or to extract the tarball and get the files inside it. So let me go ahead and do that for myself. I've got mine in my downloads directory. So let me just say tar xv, is that what I did? Yeah. In my downloads, I've got hexes in c++.tar, and there are exactly 3 files in there. The file that you're going to do your work in will be this drawhexes.cpp. Let me look at that first. And here we see there are 2 functions. This is 2 of 4 of them. Let me actually kind of put in comments here what all the functions are. So there's turn left by, and you can provide the degrees in there. And well, maybe they're just 3. There might be a move backward. Let's look at, oops. Yeah, there is a move backward. All right, so there are the 4 functions, and of course you can change that angle to be whatever you want. And what it does, so let me just say what the other 2. So the other 2 files are required. There is the code I wrote to provide the hexagon functionality. So this one, just like you pound include IOStream, when you pound include IOStream, all you're including is all the information required for the language to understand how to use cin and cout. And you include fstream so that the C++ understands how to work with files. You include hexagon.h so that your programs understand how to do these 4 functions. Hexagon.cpp, you never really need to look at either of these, but you're welcome to. If for some reason you're curious about the C++ code that goes into drawing hexagons, there it is. And there's also, that isn't just to drawing hexagons, because what this does is when you run this program, and to run it, I provide a command to compile here. Here's the command. We can just copy and paste that G++ line. So draw hexes is where you're writing your code. Hexagon.cpp, you have to compile that and bundle it in as part of your executable. Don't have to look at it. And then in this case, excuse me, I'm calling my executable draw sheet. You could of course leave that off and it would just be a.out. So whatever works for you. I'll go ahead and stick with what I provided. And there's the executable. Let me bring the code up over here. Oops, what was it? It was draw hexagon. hexes. Alright, so what this code does is I have a loop that exactly 6 times moves forward and then turns right by 60 degrees, which should draw a hexagon. If I run that, then it just generates some HTML code. Okay, so what I have to do is I actually have to put that into a file to be able to look at it. So you run the executable, but then what this little bit right here is saying is rather than the output going to the screen, have the output of this program go to a file called output.html. And of course you'd be welcome to name that file whatever you wanted. So if I do that, then there's nothing to see because all the output flowed into this file here. I could go ahead and look at that and confirm that what's in there is exactly the same as what's on the screen here. And there it is, except when you're inside a programmer's editor you get some nice syntax highlighting with it. Now, how do you visualize it? This depends on the platform you're on. If you're on a Mac, then your life's real easy because the Mac has this command called open, and I can just tell it what I want it to open. I hit enter, and there it is. Now if you make changes to it, so let's see, where I am is they have this hexagon here. I guess I can what I don't like about this tool is it's free form. Alright, so this, if I recall, begins, yeah, you see, darn it. Oh, that is a wacky one. Let's try this one. I believe that I want my old drawing program back. What do I want to use here? I'll use this. This isn't what I want, but I think this will work. Alright, I think when you begin, you're right here and you're facing this way. So what would happen is 6 times I'd move forward, turn right by 60, move forward, turn right. And then when you're done, you're exactly at this point. You've drawn a hexagon, but you're on this corner here and you're facing this direction. So if I wanted to draw another hex below it, then I would have to turn by what, rather than turning 60, I'd have to turn 120 degrees to get facing down that way, like that, right? Because that would be 60, and then that would be 120. So let me do that. Go back to my code here. So I'll turn right by 120. And then I want to move forward, which will take me, well, which will take me to here, and then I want to turn left by 60 and then move forward again, which will take me there. So come on. Oops. Turn left by 60, move forward, and that puts me right here, which is where I want to be, so I want to draw the next hex down below. But I'm still facing down this direction, so I need to turn left by 60 again to get facing the exact same way I was before. So that, with those sequence of moves there, that should put me right there on this dot here. And then if I do this exact same loop again, I should get another hex that goes like this. So we can actually, we haven't really talked about functions yet, but I'll throw them out there as a way that can really be appealing. These lines here, lines 10 through 14, I can put them in a function. I'll just put them up above main. That's the easiest thing to do. I'm going to call that, I'll just say void. That's just merely saying, unlike mathematical functions that always give you something back, like f of x equals x squared, obviously that gives you x squared back. This function isn't going to give anything back in a mathematical sense, so let's put the word void there. I'll give it a name. It can be anything you want, but hex seems fairly intuitive. I give it an empty set of parentheses, just like we've been doing with main. And then I will take lines that are now 14 through 18, and I'll delete those. And I'll do a P for put, paste them right there. Now, what I'll do is here, I'll just say hex. And anytime I need to draw a hex, I just call that function. Let me go ahead and then test that all this works. So let me do that to see if I get another hex after doing my extra movement to get down below. Compile it again. Whoops. It's compiling on the other line. Let me just do the lazy person's. Grab this, copy and paste. I will rerun it, redirect to output.html. Then I come back to here and I can just refresh the page. And there, once I refresh, there it is. I can put all these in a function. So let me call this void, I don't know, you call whatever you want. Move down 1. And that would be, my move down 1 is lines 24 through 28. Delete. I will put them here. So now I can say hex, move down 1, hex. I will do a quick, using good habits that I was promoting, I will always recompile after changing my code a little bit rather than writing a ton of code, and test it, and sure enough, whatever I had before is still there. So I could do this and keep going, but if I'm doing something over and over again, what kind of construct should I be using? A loop. I said, what did I say? How many down? 11? For int I equals 0, I is less than 11, plus I will do those two things. Delete those. Let's see if that works. That compile, I run, refresh. All right. So, if you're not using a Mac for being able to bring this up, it's going to take the longest for, if you're using Vagrant, it should be pretty straightforward. However, if you're using something like Jaguar, it's a bit more complex because what you have to do, if you recall, for those of you using MobaXterm and Jaguar, you're dragging that file either off your desktop or on your desktop. You're going to be generating output.html on Jaguar, so you'd actually have to drag that from Jaguar onto your desktop, and then you'd like double click on it to bring it up in a browser. And then every time you make a change, you're going to have to drag that file to refresh it. All right, any questions? Okay, then go ahead and have at it. You know the ground rule with most assignments, unless I say otherwise. The assignments, not the projects, the assignments, you're welcome to knock heads together and problem solve together.